If you're worth more than $5, $7, $10 million and you own more than a single family home rental or two plus your stocks, you're probably getting into the realm of you need some sort of virtual family office solution, or you should be adapting some family office strategies in what you're doing, even if you're not worth 30 million or 100 million.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Welcome to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where we inspire, impact, and empower.
Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you have always done things.
It's time to dream big. Here's your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and empower millions of people. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey, and today we have a special guest in our episodes, another dreamer, Richard Wilson, all the way in the Scottsdale, Arizona, and has an inspiring story we all need to hear. I'm very excited, thrilled, and honored, and lucky to have you in our show. Welcome, Richard, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Sachin.
Thank you. So I wanted to introduce Richard with his bio and a little introduction, and go from there. So Richard C. Wilson is a third-generation Eagle Scout, loves investing in fun, adventure, and health. And actually, he is planning to go to Nepal, looks like, in a few months from now. And he's a husband and father of 3 beautiful kids and currently living in Scottsdale, Arizona. Richard owns billionaires.com, where he is interviewing 100 billionaires. And he's the CEO and the founder of Family Office Club, which he has founded almost 16 years ago in 2007, with 4,000 registered ultra-wealthy families, and he hosts 15 live events a year. His short-term rental property fund, investorresident.com, and has equity in 83 properties, and his division focuses on investing in profitable medical practice, medical clinical capital, and has equity in 23 practices with $45 million a year in revenue. Richard has helped and created formalize well over 200 family offices for ultra-wealthy families, including billionaires, also a start from Shark Tank. Over 16 years since starting his investor club, Richard has hosted almost 119 live events, spoken at over 600 live events, have been interviewed over 300 times, and recorded 3,000 plus videos. And he also written 13 books. And by the way, I've read a couple of his books already. Richard has an undergraduate degree in business, M.B.A, and studied master psychology through Harvard University, ALM division. Wow, that's a very impressive accomplishment, Richard. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Sachin.
Yeah, so I'm very honored again, thrilled to have you in our show. That was a long bio, and I would like to, again, focus on topic today in our show, like family office, what it is, what are the types of family office, and, what are the advantages and all that. We can also talk about medical clinic capital and short-term rental you're doing. And with that, my first question I ask all my guests in my show is, who is Richard Wilson and why he is in this world?
Sure. Yeah. One thing is a lot of people who become very successful don't focus enough on their health. And so we try to encourage all of our ultra wealthy families to realize that investing in their health is more important than anything else that they invest their money into, because otherwise all their investments are going to go down if they die. Probably not going to be good for them if they die, and they'll get taxed a lot probably if they die, unless they've done amazing estate planning. So it's just not a good thing. And people around you would rather you be in a better mood with more energy, enjoying yourself, living longer, rather than being worth a little bit more money. But many times, if you can be in great health and have more energy and focus, you can actually be wealthier and healthier at the same time. So I try to bring that message to the industry. Almost nobody really ever talks about that. And then, I like doing fun adventure travel trips. So we always have many trips coming up, just like the Everest Base Camp trip and coming to Nepal for the first time, or going down to Belize to spend some time with my clients here soon, or going backpacking through the Narrows in Utah or through the Grand Canyon and different trips like that, you know?
Sure. Wow. Are you going by yourself? Or I'm just really excited to hear once you told me that, going to Nepal, and because I was born and raised there, as you know, and yeah. So you're taking with the family, or?
Yeah, I'm going with my brother and my wife. They're both coming with. So this should be a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah. Luckily, my wife is into all the outdoor adventure stuff as well. 2-3 months ago, I guess now, we did a 46-mile hike in one day across the Grand Canyon and back. It's called Rem to Rem to Rem, and it took about 23 hours to do, and it's about 11,000 feet of elevation gain going up the canyons and whatnot. So we always like to do fun stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, let me know if I can help you with anything. But being a doctor, I definitely recommend you to have some vaccines before going there, which we can talk about later.
Okay.
But it'll be amazing it's a beautiful country, and Mount Everest is definitely something I personally aspire to go and one day, because I have not been there,
Sure.
Believe it or not. But yeah, good luck, and let me know how it turned out to be,
Thank you.
So, Richard, we have a lot to cover today. Basically, as you know, my podcast name is Dream Big and Think Different.
Right.
And I really appreciate you told me about the health. I think that's number one in my books also. So I consider health is number one no matter what, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to enjoy anything in life. And I agree with that, So my other question, I really wanted to get through your back to how you started back in 2007. But before that, I want to talk about a little bit about your childhood dream. If you have anything when you're a child, dreams you had in that when you were small,
Sure. Well, I mean, I grew up around watching my dad run his business, and I started 7 or 8 businesses before I got out of high school. I started a business trying to sell advertising to people that were on the radio and to put magnets on the sides of cars. And I sold long distance telephone service by cold calling all the parents of my high school friends through the school directory. And I got my first job doing computer website programming by cold calling every computer company in the yellow pages till someone gave me a job. And so a lot of it was just learning by starting businesses and failing. But I also read a lot of Inc. magazine growing up. Mm-hmm. And in high school, I was voted in the annual yearbook as the most likely to succeed in business because I was always working on some new business idea in the library or something like that. So I kind of grew up with business in my mind.
So you spend most of your time, I believe, in that's the Seattle, right? If I'm not wrong.
In the where?
In the west part of the country, in Seattle.
Yes, yeah. I grew up in Oregon. I was born in Evanston, just outside of Chicago, but I really grew up in Oregon. So that's where I spent most of my time growing up.
Okay. All right. So I also saw one of the things that you came to Boston back in 2007. You did something there. Can you tell more about like how your college life was and going from there?
Yeah, sure. So I had my M.B.A. completed, and I was bored doing risk consulting, and I thought, who else is going to pay somebody, $100,000 a year at age 21? Probably not many people. And so I thought, okay, I need to do commercial real estate or raise capital because I just get paid what I accomplish.
Yep.
And I got a job offer in commercial real estate, and I could stay in Oregon doing that, or I could move to Boston, where I found a psychology of influence and persuasion program through the Harvard ALM division. So basically it was like a psychology program, but there was a psychology of influence professor there. And I just studied Robert Cialdini and influence and persuasion while there, and just applied it to my new job in raising capital in Boston. And at that new job, I had to work for them for free when I was used to getting paid $100,000 a year until they saw my value. And then that's how I got into the capital raising world, because they wanted to hire someone with 7 years of experience. And I said, well, I know I can add value, so I'll just work for you for free until you believe I can. And then, after about 3 months, they started paying me.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So I think you started Family Office Club back in 2007.
Right.
And my question was why and how you got started in the family office industry and founded this amazing, Family Office Club. Can you share some, background on that?
Sure. Yeah. So I was raising capital for a hedge fund, and this hedge fund needed accredited investors. And so I would call a normal wealth advisor, and they would say, oh, my clients are not $1 million plus accredited investors, so we can't really look at hedge funds, or only 20% of my clients are. And so I said to myself, well, why am I calling all these people that can't even invest? I should find a wealth manager who has all ultra wealthy clients and not waste my time. And I found out there was a name for that. There's different types of family offices. There are single family offices for an individual family or person. There's a small virtual family office version of that. Or there's a multifamily office where there's basically a wealth management firm that's really set up to serve those people worth 10, 20, 50, 100 million plus. And their whole firm is geared to those multi-generational issues, tax issues, et cetera. And so when I found that out, I said, oh, well, I should only call on those folks and forget all the wealth management firms, the normal types. I don't need to call on them anymore. And I said to myself, how do I get really good at connecting with multifamily offices? Mm-hmm. And then I could raise a lot of capital for this hedge fund product. And I found it very hard. The only people who wrote anything on the industry that was helpful at all was like a Financial Times journalist or a Bloomberg journalist. And they had never worked a day in their life in the industry, but they just wrote about what they saw in the industry. And then I found that there was no trail guide for me. There was almost no books at all on the industry. And so I just dedicated myself to only reading things about family offices. Every time something came out, I read about it, and I only called on them every day. And pretty soon they were asking me for advice and insights on what their peers were doing, mm-hmm. because they didn't know many other people who had talked to 50 other family offices. So they were asking me about compensation plans and what other people's investments look like. And that just led to me starting a blog. And I started to write once a week, and then twice a week, and then started getting 100 hits a day, and then 500 hits a day, and they started writing every day. Mm-hmm. And at one point, my boss at the capital raising firm said, oh, I don't like how you were on the front page of the Boston Globe being quoted as this writer on the family office capital raising space. I have 30 years more experience than you, mm-hmm. so you need to shut down this blog or you need to leave this job.
Oh, really?
And so I said, well, I'm getting like 2,000-3,000 hits a day on the website. So I'll just quit the job and go work for someone that's not going to get bothered by me saying these like non-threatening, it's not like I was saying crazy stuff, right? I was just saying like, oh, that's interesting. Here's another trend, or here's another statistic, or it was nothing crazy. And then so that's when I quit the job. And before I could get a job offer from somebody else, the website started taking off even more, and it started making me more money than the job had made me.
Well, I think you did definitely do the right thing. And doing that. Yeah. And so so for my listener, and I personally found this term called family office actually in 2018. I'm very interested to, and my listener was mostly doctors and dentists, to, let them know actually what is family office and why this is important. And if you can tell us a little bit more about it, that'd be great.
Yeah, basically, family office is really a wealth management, balance sheet management solution for ultra wealthy families, because your problems become more expensive, more diverse, and more frequent the wealthier you get. And you also need to think about taxation, next generations, different structures. So I have about 25 different LLCs myself, and some of my clients have 150 plus. And if I make a mistake, it might cost me $50,000 or $100,000 to make a mistake. But if one of my clients makes a mistake, they have a larger net worth, larger income, larger taxation burden. So one mistake might cost them $500,000 or $1 million. If you're only worth $500,000, maybe a mistake costs you $1,000 or $5,000, right? So the more wealthy you get, the busier you get, so you're more likely to miss a deadline or miss a piece of paper that comes in the mail. I get a stack of paper every month from different states and real estate things, et cetera. I'm more likely to miss a piece of paper. I'm more likely to be traveling nonstop. And then one mistake could have paid for a full-time person just to manage and play defense and fill out regulatory paperwork and remind you of deadlines. And so that really shows the purpose of a family office. Like, just getting your financial situation more organized and streamlined alone pays for having a family office. But you also should be sourcing better deals, structuring them more intelligently, doing things more tax efficiently, and just finding all the synergies between your holdings. And I'd love to share a couple of the most exciting strategies we use with families, but I'll stop there for a second just to make sure people realize that if you're worth more than $5, $7, $10 million and you own more than a single family home rental or two plus your stocks, you're probably getting into the realm of you need some sort of virtual family office solution, or you should be adapting some family office strategies in what you're doing, even if you're not worth 30 million or 100 million.
That's a very, good definition. And I think when I started learning about more, and I thought to myself, like, when should I start this, or when should people start thinking of family office, and you gave me the answer right now. Net worth about almost 5, 7, 10 million and above would be the good thing to start about this concept called family office. And so I believe what I also learned when I was looking at family offices back in like 100 years ago, when Rockefeller's family had a similar concept called family offices. I think that's something similar thing we're doing right now with all technology, and we can, because of the Zoom and other technology, we can have all our advisors, connected and all over the world, basically.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes families don't want to have like a huge overhead running a big formal family office, but they may hire a CPA or a controller or a CIO, a chief investment officer. And even if they're only part-time with them, maybe half 20 hours a week with them, they at least can help organize their investments, streamline them, or help them do diligence deals. Most important, and we've got a free dashboard if anybody wants to use it to help them set up their family office solution. We have a free dashboard tool they could use. It's just a PDF. It's nothing, no fancy software or anything you have to buy. And we also, on YouTube, on our Family Office Club channel, we just finished recording a 14 module mini series on how to start a family office. And every module is 4 to 8 minutes long, going through the different fundamentals of having your own family office and all the different strategies and things you should be aware of, et cetera. So those two resources could be really helpful to anyone looking to get started. They don't cost anything. And a lot of it is making sure you're very intentional about what you want. Do you value income, safety? Are you trying to grow your wealth? Do you want something that's very hands-off? Do you want to be super involved? And where do you concentrate your energy so that you have different teams playing defense for you and maybe allocating real estate investments for you passively, but maybe your passion is data centers or dry cleaners or stem cell therapy centers. So you should be playing offense in just 1 or 2 areas that you know best, and let other people play defense for you and invest passively. And that's exactly why we have medical clinic capital, and we invest in the profitable medical practices. And that's why we have invested in the 83 short-term rental properties. And those are the 2 areas that we focus on, just like we advise families to focus. And you get really good at playing those 2 games. You're not distracted by 100 other things.
You're listening to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast with Dr. Sachin Maskey. Be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMD.com to download a free copy of Dr. Maskey's book.
Sure. Thank you for giving those resources. I'll be putting down in one of my channel here, drop that links and the resources. But my question in regards to setting up the family office, I've actually myself, if I wanted to start that after getting some resources and all that, but what are the steps, like actually practically doing it? Do I have to work with somebody like yourself or any other people that can help to coordinate, like a project manager, somebody like one person contact who can do all this for the people who really wanted to start?
Right. Yeah. A lot of consultants charge $50,000 to $200,000 to help someone start their family office. We used to as well. Now we just do it for free because we've found that the relationships we build by not having that friction of charging someone $100,000 to do it is more valuable than the $100,000. So we do it for free. The type of family office you have is going to change based on what you want. And anyone who tries to give you advice on what to do before asking you a whole bunch of questions first is probably just trying to sell you something.
Right.
So we have another free resource at our website, centamillionaires.com. And if you download the resources there, there's a Dropbox link, and one of them is called the 50 Questions resource. And those are the 50 questions that you should ask yourself or an advisor should ask you before investing your money or recommending a whole bunch of stuff to you. Because if you don't ask yourself these questions, then you don't really know where you're trying to go. So that's really important first step. And then the PDF dashboard we provide has some fields you have to fill out. It's like a worksheet. And if you can't fill out some of those fields, that points you to some things that you need to get in place. And then just yesterday, we are onboarding a new family office client. They're worth about $70 million. And we were going over this exact question. And the first things we went over were, do you need to upgrade your current wealth advisor? Because traditional wealth management is not what we do. But after doing this for 16 years, we've met 1,000 wealth advisors. There's only 2 that we refer business to.
Wow.
So we can help upgrade their wealth advisor. An area no one ever gets excited about is insurance. but we have like an amazing insurance partner. We used to have our policies with 9 different insurance companies for no good reason. And we found someone who actually looks, they say, oh, you have a swing in your backyard. That's actually not covered under this policy. So we either need to remove that or we need to change carriers. Or, oh, you have a hot tub. If someone drowns in that hot tub, you'll lose your whole property. So you need to have $1 million of liability coverage and a rider for the hot tub, or, stuff like that, like you need to have. And many times using him, we're paying less than we were before, but we have $1 million in liability coverage, and we used to just pay for hazard insurance with no liability. So it's not like you're paying 4 times more. You're just having a much smarter policy. So we upgrade these different components like wealth advisor, insurance advisor. Maybe they need an accounting solution. Maybe there's issues with the next generation getting groomed. Many times they don't know where they should focus their energy, and many times you'll ask someone, oh, well, what do you want to invest in? And they say, oh, we'll invest in anything. We'll look at just about anything. And no, they won't. It's like someone coming out of high school and saying like, oh yeah, I'll work in any job in business. But they don't realize that they hate accounting,
Right.
or they don't like financial modeling, or they don't like sales and cold calling people, right? Like nobody wants to do everything. And if you said, oh, okay, well, I've got this startup crypto hedge fund out of Zimbabwe that manages $1,000, do you want to put $1 million with them? They're going to say no. So they're just wasting their own time and everybody else's by not being super clear on what they want. And it makes it really clear who to send a deal to first. If you say, we invest in multi-location medical practices that do 7 figures in revenue per location, have multiple doctors per location, and are highly profitable, then people know when to keep you in mind, and they might send you that deal first. And you're the most powerful investor when you get to see deals first, exclusively, and at a better valuation than anyone else. And if you can always be seeing deals first exclusively and at a better valuation, then your wealth is going to compound, and you're not going to waste your time on bad deals as much.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for providing those information for setting up the family office. If you can also quickly talk about types of family office, that's what I wanted to know also. What are the types of family office?
Yeah, sure. So the smallest type would be a virtual family office, where you want to keep things very lean and a little bit less structured or less formal or less expensive. This would just be having a couple part-time advisors or on-demand contractors. Like, let's say you're doing an investment into dry cleaners, and whenever you get a dry cleaner that you want to acquire, because you already own 4, you want to add it to your platform, you might need to engage your due diligence consultant. And then you just use them when you need them, but you're not hiring them full-time. You might have, instead of a full-time CFO, you might just have a great CPA. You might pay them extra to give you extra care in planning and forecasting, et cetera. So it's a matter of just keeping things really lean with a virtual family office. A single family office is more full-fledged. Typically, that means you have 2 to 6 or 5 to 10, or sometimes many more, 100 plus employees helping you run your single family office.
Wow.
And it can be deceiving, though. Somebody might say we have a 3-person single family office, but they might be worth $1 billion. And that happens because of what I talked about earlier. If you have a focus on 2 areas, well, you could have 400 employees in your medical clinic capital division and 600 over here in investor residences where you're doing your short-term rental properties, but you may only have 3 at the family office level because you've pushed down that staff into those 2 areas, and just have a really powerful staff there and a really powerful CFO over here that helps keep track of everything at a high level. Then you maybe only need a few people at the top that help protect your time and manage paperwork and stuff. So that's a single family office. And the multifamily office is what we talked about before, a wealth management firm that's really geared to work with the ultra wealthy.
So basically, there's three different kinds, sounds like: single family, multifamily, and the virtual family office.
Right. Essentially, yes.
Sounds good. I think that was a very good information for me and for our listener here to how to set up. And if there's any more information, you can contact Richard through the website. And let's switch our gear to a little bit more about medical clinic capital that you've been talking about and the Airbnb strategy. I wanted to know why did you got involved on this, and how people can get involved, and if they want to know more about it.
Sure. So I'll start with the medical clinic capital side. We started working with doctors 7 or 8 years ago. We ended up just liking them as people. They go to school literally to help people.
Yes.
I also want to stay as far away from anything that could be a fraud or burn our investors' money.
Right.
And what I found is that doctors are very dedicated to their craft. They go to school for a decade, they get a residency, they get a job, they may start a practice, they open a second practice, now they're employing many people. They're very unlikely to run away to Venezuela or burn our investors' money or not be responsible or not be committed. And I really like that. I think I respect people who are black belt in martial arts. I respect other people that are Eagle Scouts like myself. I respect people who are really disciplined. And I find that doctors are relatively disciplined, and banks love to lend money to doctors who have medical practices, especially multiple locations, because they're very unlikely when you've got 5,000 patients across 3 locations and 6 doctors plus support staff. Even if half those doctors left, you might go down in revenue by 30, 40%, but a lot of those patients are going to keep coming back and you'll be able to recover from that. You're very unlikely to go to zero like some companies do. So I really like that. And when you have 10, 12, 15, 20 locations in medical practice, you could be worth 10 to 15 times EBITDA. So to be in an industry where you're working with good people, relatively sleep at night risk levels, but also can have this exponential return on the value of the company is just an exciting niche for me. And because we work with hundreds and hundreds of doctors as investors, as well as dentists, which obviously is just a type of doctor, we will sometimes work with a doctor who will invest in a short-term rental property with us, but that same doctor might own a medical practice, or that doctor might also want to invest in someone else's medical practice. So there's a ton of synergy in what we do, and it allows us just to listen and be helpful and help a doctor set up a family office or put money into the industry they know best. And so that's why we love that space. And then on the short-term rental side, it's also not ridiculously risky. We're not doing ground-up construction. We're buying cash flowing properties, and we're putting an average of 50% LTV, 50% debt, 50% equity on properties. We structure really creative deals. We do seller financing structures. We buy some properties, like we just locked up an oceanfront fourplex on the beach in Florida, and we got a 23% discount off the list price, $500,000 off the list price by offering all cash. So that deal should cash flow at 13 to 15% cash on cash, so a 13% plus cap rate. And we're really excited about the traction we're getting on the short-term rental side, because a lot of investors right now are sitting on their hands and they're saying, oh, it's not a good time to invest. And so you look at the number of listings online and the number of sales that are happening, and it builds pressure. And the people who need to sell really need to sell. So we look at about 100 properties a month. We try to close on 1 to 2 properties a month.
Wow.
And we are finding that in this market, when not as many people are buying, that we're getting 20 to 33% discounts, and everybody's open to our creative structures. A year and a half ago, nobody wants to hear about your creative structure. They got 5 other offers on the table and they want above list price. So to me, it's like, we just layer in, and if it goes down more, we'll layer in harder versus trying to guess where the bottom is. And it's been going really well lately.
So all this investment opportunity you're talking about is in United States, or is overseas too?
Overseas too. By chance, we've had the most momentum here domestically in the United States so far, but we're looking at some properties in Belize, Portugal, Greece, Australia, and then long-term we'd like to have properties in Singapore, Bali, and many countries internationally. So we're not restricted.
You guys going to Dubai?
We would like to over time. I have got a team member who is from Dubai. I'm not intimately familiar there, but we've hosted conferences in London and Singapore, and we've been to 35 countries, but we want to eventually start hosting events in Dubai, and I think that will lead to us doing more in that area. So the name of the platform is investorresidences.com is name of the platform. We'll have, we've got our properties listed there on the website. We've got a free webinar there on the website. And I think the most important to emphasize is that by running our investor club for 16 years, and last year we closed $85 million worth of transactions, we've learned so much about structuring deals, negotiating deals, sourcing deals, that now we get to apply that to medical practices in the short-term rental properties. And so hosting 190 investor events this last 16 years has taught me that investors do not like to be charged a ton of fees up front. They like people to be aligned. They like people to be transparent. And we make enough money off of our core business that we design a structure for our short-term rental property fund where the investors, we don't charge them any asset management fees up front, no annual asset management fees. They get all their money back first, then they get double their money back, and then that's when the only time when we benefit. So we don't charge anything until they double their money. And so it seems like this really unique concept, but it's kind of interesting that the norm in the industry is to charge people a lot of money before you've added any value to them. just say, oh, well, we've got these costs, so we got to charge you a bunch of money, even though we haven't gotten you your money back yet or anything. And so I do think that more people in the future will have that type of structure, but we don't know anybody in the industry who does at this point. So it's basically doubling their money with no fees. And then the smaller investors are capped at a 2x return, and they can have fun using the properties as well. They get a vacation credit after they double their money. And then the bigger investors who invest $400,000 or $1 billion or more, they get a little equity co-investments. They get a little bit of equity in the properties long-term, as well as doubling their money on the main chunk of their investment. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because the structure of a deal matters just as much as the strategy. You can make a deal really good or really bad for somebody based on the structure.
Sure. Yeah, exciting to know personally myself, and hopefully, listener who is listening to this will take advantage of the investment opportunity. So the way people can go is go to the website. I think you mentioned too, investorresident.com and medicalclinicalpractice.com.
Yeah, I think we're redoing the medical clinic capital website. So the best way would be to go to investorresidences.com for the short-term rental property stuff. And then if you're interested in the medical practice stuff, probably just go to investorclub.com and fill out the lead form there. And then we'll just get in touch with you and show you what we're doing on the medical side until we get the website revamped for the medical stuff.
Okay, sure. And in terms of medical clinical practice, what kind of practice you guys are focusing on? Is it urgent care or primary care, like group practice? What exactly is the practice you guys?
Sure. We've done the most in the dental space to date. We are looking to do more with dermatologists and oncologists.
Okay.
And then just by chance, we found a really great group that's just taken off. In their first 12 months, they acquired 17 clinics, and they're growing to 30 to 40 clinics this year. And they happen to be in primary care and pain clinics. It's not an area where, like getting out of bed, like trying to target every day.
Okay.
But we just found a really institutionally minded group in that area. But we're open to anyone who has multiple locations with multiple doctors per location, ideally 7 figures of revenue, profitable. But dermatology and oncology is where we hope to make more progress this year.
Yeah, thank you for that information. I guess I'm a primary care doctor. I've been practicing for 15 years, so I think one thing I really wanted to kind of focus is the urgent care, which is also I call as a recession resistant kind of an asset class, because people try to get sick, a lot of time, they get sick and they have to go to, in emergencies like this, 2-4 hours waiting time, right? It's for simple things like cough and thing. So if you go to the urgent care, I think the care is faster. And I don't know, you guys are thinking that route too, but yeah.
We've got one client who has like 4 standalone emergency room clinics, and besides staffing challenges, they've done well with it. So it's not an area that we are like intimately familiar with. We do have one client who knows it very well and has done a lot in that space. And, it seems like competition, proximity to other clinics nearby, and then state regulations have a lot to do with how easy it is to open or invest in one of those, it seems.
Yeah, of course. And what is the exit strategy for this fund, the medical fund? How many years that people has to hold, and what is the minimum investment?
Sure. So it's very different than the short-term rental property fund. So the short-term rental property fund, we're trying to double people's money in 5 to 8 years. They can use the properties, have fun using them, and have it be a sleep-at-night investment with not a lot of debt. The medical practice side, or medical clinic capital, is completely different because it's not a fund. It's really just a platform, and the deals are one-off deals. And so whoever we're working with at that time, doctors, private investors, family offices that are in touch with us, when the deal opens up, we let them know and say, hey, we're raising just $500,000 or 1.5 million or 5 million for this practice or this platform. And then it opens and closes sometimes within a week or two or within a month. And so we let people know who we're working with on an ongoing basis so they can get to know them and get comfortable. So when one of their offerings opens up, then it opens and closes relatively quickly. And each deal will be different, right? So one group that had the 17 clinics in their first year, they're trying to have a private equity event in just the next 18 months, but they might not sell the whole company at that private equity event. They might just get funded to grow further and try to reach, $1 billion valuation or something. Where the dental group we're working with, they have 6 locations doing 23 million in revenue. And I've invested my money with them as well, both of these groups. And they're trying to grow to 100 million in revenue and then sell to private equity.
Wow.
And get out. And so with them, it might be a 4 to 7 year hold, but it'll be different with each group. And it's also important to communicate that it's not like all of these medical clinic groups, when you invest with them, the money's not coming to me, it's coming to these medical group CEOs and their teams So we manage the money for the Airbnb fund, and the money is coming to my team, and I'm the only one with access to that bank account to protect it from anything bad happening. In this case, you're trusting these different brain trusts and different medical practice CEOs. And, in that way, it diversifies the strategy, the locations, the medical clinic type, et cetera. So our thesis and my motivation is to have equity in 100 medical clinic locations over the next couple of years. And a lot of the family offices we work with would like to do the same. And so we're just doing that together through the platform.
Okay, sounds good. So the next question, we are almost towards the end of the show. I wanted to hear from some of your dream that you are having this year. If you can tell us, what is your dream now?
Yeah. Well, my dreams have the most fun year of my life, as I try to do every year. But I think interviewing 100 billionaires is a lofty goal. I don't know if we'll get there. We've interviewed 20 so far. So if anyone knows of one that'll complete our 3 non-invasive interview questions over email, I don't even need their contact details if they're afraid of being pitched something. We genuinely just want their insights and answers to these 3 questions over email. So that would be one dream, is basically, just getting those 100 billionaire interviews done. I think I'll learn a lot by doing that. Others will learn a lot, and just a whole bunch of good things will happen. If we can do all those interviews, 100 interviews with 3 questions each means we have 300 insights from billionaires. And we'll have that on billionaires.com, where you can see the interviews we've done to date, including with Mark Cuban. But then we'll also put together a really thin 100-page book that'll be called, it'll be like basically disclosing all the billionaire strategies and basically showing these 300 insights from the winners in the game of capitalism. And I think that'll be one of the most dense resources of billionaire insights that exists, that I know of at least. And so we're excited to put that together, and hopefully we can make most of that or all of that happen this year.
Yeah, that's a big goal. And one of my goals is just to interview a few billionaires, and actually Jeff Hoffman is coming to my podcast, and I'm very honored.
Awesome.
Yeah, I actually found billionaire.com about him speaking about his story, and I was very inspired, and I really wanted to talk to him.
He's great. We've had 190 conferences and events we've hosted, and he's the #1 best speaker we've ever had at any of our events. And so the average age of someone in our room is like maybe 52, and half of the room was crying during his talk at a financial investment conference, right? That never happens, right? So if you go to billionaires.com, you'll see Jeff Hoffman on the homepage, and you can see his keynote speech at our conference.
Yes.
And, maybe he'll make you cry over the internet too. We'll see. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, everyone should definitely. It's free, and you can hear some insight and get inspired, what he's doing. And I'm very inspired what he's been doing for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great.
He's definitely. So my last question for today for Richard is, where can people find you, and what is the one thing you want to share today, a word of wisdom? That would be great.
Best place to find me that's most simple is to go to familyoffices.com. You can see our conferences coming up. You can see what charter membership is like in the Family Office Club. You can get a free book on family offices there. If you're an investor, you could also head to investorclub.com to get in touch with us about anything we talked about today. Any of the free resources you need, just go to investorclub.com, fill out that form, and let us know what you need. If you're a capital raiser, we've got a free book at capitalraising.com. And then a number of thing I would leave people with is just that I get asked a lot, what's like the best or most powerful or most valuable advice I could give in an interview? And it's the same answer for people raising capital as it is for private investors. And that's to have the deepest integration of everything in your life as possible. So where you live, what you eat, the clothes you wear, the friends you have, the media you consume, the podcasts you listen to, the people you add to your team, the more all of that is aligned with where you want to go, then the faster you'll get there with less pain and suffering and friction. And the more that it's misaligned, then the more tough and challenging things are going to be. So you just need to remove friction, but be highly intentional about where you want to go and why, and then you can get things out of your way that are stopping you from getting there.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that amazing word of wisdom. And I really, it's an honor to have you in our show. Really appreciate your time, and wish you good luck and safe travel to Nepal. And thank you again for your time. And thank you to all the listener and who is watching in the YouTube or listening and in the Apple podcast to give us some reviews and 5-star reviews. And hopefully we can bring more dreamers in our next episode. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dream Big and Think Different. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any gold nuggets. We would appreciate it if you could rate and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMD.com to download a free copy of Sachin's book. Until next time.